With this next NHL season almost here, we have a lot to look forward to in this new year with new Stanley Cup champions to be named and a lot of new NHL awards to be given out. But we're going to be highlighting every single major NHL award, the Hart, the Calder, the Norris, the Vezina, the Selke, the Art Ross. We're going to go through every single one of those trophies and I'm going to predict the top 3 finalists and the winner for each at the end of this next NHL season. But who do I see winning every single major NHL award? We'll watch till the end for all the award talk, all of the predictions, and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey content and hockey rankings content just like this all throughout the year, because you guys won't want to miss a thing. Now let's start today's video off with an award that cannot be debated just based on points in a total season, and that is the Art Ross Trophy, which was awarded to Connor McDavid last year with McDavid and Draisaitl really running away with that top spots in the NHL points race. But could there be a race this year? Could we see somebody top that throne? Well, let's start out the top 3 predictions here for the Art Ross Trophy at number 3, and the player I predict to get the third most points in the NHL this year is Nathan MacKinnon of the Colorado Avalanche. Now with MacKinnon, I predict him to get 114 points this next season, and hopefully in a fully healthy year, really rising above and getting the most points of his career. At 28 years old, he's right in the prime of it, and to me, considering the weapons that Colorado has, I think he'll lead the way in a big way. You can see he got 71 games last year, 111 points, was dynamic, even strength, and I think one of the biggest things was the goal scoring increase, 42 goals, which we hadn't seen him get past 40 goals since 2019. That I think will continue, and we could see even more goals alongside maybe a player like Jonathan Drouin if those two fit together well. But I think Colorado, it might be a little bit top heavy this next year, but for MacKinnon and the points, I don't think that'll be much of a problem. Now going on to number 2 and number 1, I think it will be again Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. Now I see Leon Draisaitl getting 125 points this year, a little bit of a downgrade from last season, but still, I mean, he's going to be elite. You can see last season he got 76 assists, 128 points. Of course, we all know him as the goal scorer, but that playmaking really rose above this last season to produce an unreal offensive year. Still though, I see him being around 125 points, and I mean, 125 points is still good. It's like 3 less than last year. He'll be okay. And then on to number 1, I got Connor McDavid, and the big question will be how many points does he get next year? And I would love to know down below what you guys think. Does he get more than 150 points again? For me personally, I have him at 148, just slightly what we saw last year. But honestly, putting McDavid to have a declining season points-wise might be an ill-fated thing. You can see 97, then 105, then 123, then 153, 30 points more than 2022. So we'll see what happens. Maybe 183 points is in the cards, but I'm going to say 148 and be a little bit generous to some other players. Still, 148 points, just like Draisaitl, they'll be all right. But now let's go to the second trophy just based on stats, and that is the Rocket Richard Trophy for the most goals in a single season. Of course, we saw Connor McDavid rise above and get this trophy over 60 goals last season and really unlock the goal scoring talent that he always had. But, you know, he just needed to get better goal scoring wise, said nobody ever, but he did, and it was insane to watch. This year should be interesting. Does McDavid again get the Maurice Richard? Well, we'll have a lot to talk about here. Let's start off with my number 3 pick and the player I see getting the third most goals in the league next year, and that will be Leon Draisaitl, who we just talked about. But in terms of the goal scoring, it's interesting because he got 55 goals in 2022, then 52 goals in 2023. Though I think there could still be more on top of that. We'll have to see. I think he'll still get around that 55 range. Personally, for me, I see him getting 54 goals next year, and having the third most goals in the league. Now let's move on to number 2 for the second most goals in the league next year, and a player that I see resurging in a big way goal scoring wise, and that is Auston Matthews. Being fully healthy is going to change a lot of this race in my opinion with Matthews, and I think we'll see him get back to the form that we saw back in 2022, or at least most of it. I see him getting 55 goals on the season, being below that 60 goal plateau, but still being great. Hopefully having a fully healthy year as well, but probably sitting around the 100 to 105 point mark with some great goal scoring. That's what I likely see out of Auston Matthews. Still one of the best goal scorers when healthy, and I think we'll see that again in the regular season. But next up, let's go on to the player that I see getting the most goals in the NHL next season, and it's hard not to put this player here, especially of what he was able to prove last season, and that is Connor McDavid, of course. I see him getting the most goals in the league next year with 61, and it might be a little bit low of what he was able to do last year, 64 goals in 82 games. I think we'll see a little bit of a degree of decrease, but still over 60 goals is insane, especially consider how good he is with the playmaking, how elite he is with the passing. It's all at an incredible rate and has been so consistent over the past years. That is not going anywhere. But to me, McDavid will still be at the top of the NHL in goal scoring. I mean, he has shown that if he at least tries a little bit to score goals, he can pop 64. He'll still be at a pretty good mark next year, and still the sky's the limit for what he's able to accomplish. Now let's go into an award where we can finally stop talking about Connor McDavid, and that is only because he does not play this position. If he found a way to play in net, he certainly could win some awards. But next up, let's go on to the Vezina Trophy and the top three. This one is really interesting to me because there is so many guys I think that could be in that top three, could reach that top three mark, but these are going to be my three finalists. Let's start off at number three. And number three in the Vezina Trophy race, I have Thatcher Demko of the Vancouver Canucks. To me, this next year will be a big rebound year for him, not just in the health, but I think in the overall play too. I think we could see him reach around a 920 save percentage and get a lot of Vezina consideration for it. You can see he got a 901 save percentage in 32 games last year, just a disastrous year for the Canucks and him in general. But I think being a fully healthy player throughout the entire course of the year will be really important to him. And I think we'll see the general success come to the Canucks as well. We'll see if they actually make the playoffs, but I think that Demko is going to put him in a position where they're super close, and I think he'll get a lot of recognition because of it, as he should. When he is healthy, when he is consistent, he's still one of the best goalies out there, and I still think he has the potential to be in that top tier. Now, let's go on to number two, and the player that I see getting the second most Vezina votes next year, and that's going to be Igor Shesterkin of the New York Rangers. We saw a little bit of a down year from last year, a 916 save percentage after an incredible 935 save percentage season, but I do think we'll see Shesterkin back in a big way. I think Quick could give him some more stability in the backup role. He was solid for Vegas last year. We'll see if that carries over onto New York. Still, though, even if he is given the same responsibility, I still think Shesterkin's going to be in a great position come playoff time, but I still think he's going to be back in a big way. Maybe not a 935% save percentage, but I could see him around that range. Maybe not too far behind. But now let's go on to number one, and the player that I think will win the Vezina Trophy in 2023, a player that I think is going to get Hart consideration for how good he's going to be this next year. And you guys already know, if you've been paying attention to my playoff predictions, at number one, I have Juuse Saros of the Nashville Predators. To me, I think Juuse Saros is going to prove a lot this next season. And I think under Nashville's defense, maybe if it gets a little bit better, Saros is going to really benefit from that. But you can see what he's done over the last couple of years of Nashville's defense not really being all that great. A 918 save percentage and 919 save percentage, continuing to get better and better. And to me, I think we could see Saros reach maybe the 925 area. And considering Nashville's team, I think that would be a miraculous feat. He's a player, though, that has been so valuable, was so valuable for Nashville last year, was incredible in goals saved above expected, especially in the second half. And I think we'll see that carry on to this year. And I think the Predators make the playoffs. Juuse Saros is one of, if not the reason that it happens. And if we go on to the 2024 Vezina Trophy odds by DraftKings, it has Elias Sorokin as the number one guy with Saros and Shesterkin just behind. I could see Sorokin getting there, but I'm not sure how consistent he'll be next year. We'll have to see. But it goes then Hellebuck, Vasilevsky, Ottinger, Olmark, Goff, Sengorgiev, and Thatcher Demko. We'll see what happens. I would love to know what your guys' predictions are on the Vezina Trophy, but right now, it seems like Sorokin is the favorite. Next up, let's move on to a spicy one here in the Norris Trophy, and this one to me is going to be really fascinating to watch. We thought the Vezina Trophy conversation was going to be crowded. The Norris Trophy conversation is insane. There's so many different guys that I think could rise above, have a fantastic year, and really prove a lot here. But we only have three players to mention. We can only put three players in the top three. Let's go on to number three here, and to me, the player that will end up with the third most Norris Trophy votes in the entire league next year, and that will be Rasmus Dahlin. He was snubbed a lot this last season, should have gotten a lot more consideration than he ultimately did, but I think this next year where we start to see a little bit more recognition from him. I think he'll have generally the same type of season. Maybe he could get up to 75-ish points, still play solid defensively like he did last year for the first time really in his career, and was really consistent in his own end. But to me, I think the recognition could be a big part of things. I mean, people are going to start catching up to Dahlin. Once he has another great season, I think a lot more voters will give him the consideration and have him inside the top three. Now on to the player I see getting the second most Norris Trophy votes, another player that will get a lot more recognition next year and will start to get even better in his own end as well, and that is Quinn Hughes of the Vancouver Canucks. Now, we did see some massive improvements in his own end this year, but I think next year will be even more progression, and I think a lot of people will also take notice. With Quinn Hughes, you saw what he was able to do offensively last year, 76 points in 78 games, 69 nice assists, but the defensive game getting better and better has been a huge point of progression. I think this next year will be even better as Vancouver's defense gets even better, and he's starting to get some actual solidified teammates around him on that decor, and I think Quinn Hughes is really going to benefit from that. Probably around a 75 plus point season. I could even see him getting 80 points next year as Vancouver gets a little bit better too. And defensively, that'll be again another big point of improvement where Quinn Hughes just continues to improve year on year. Voters will also hopefully recognize that. Next up, going on to number one though, and this one to me is very obvious. If he stays healthy and plays at a great level, he is going to win the Norris Trophy next year, and that is Cale Makar of the Colorado Avalanche. You know, voting wise, this last year kind of made it so that he couldn't have won the Norris Trophy with how many games he played. He still got consideration, only playing 60 games, got 66 points there, but I think another fully healthy season out of him will spark a lot more conversation. Since he didn't win it last year, I think this next year is going to be a big one for him. Some of these awards, like the Vezina, like the Norris, can be reputation, but sometimes, you know, if a player that's supposed to win it, or a player that has the talent to win it, doesn't win it one year, the next year he's up there, he's likely to get it done. I think Cale Makar already having one in the bank also helps him in this case, honestly, but I mean, considering the reputation there, if he has a Cale Makar season, he's going to get Norris votes. It's as simple as that. And when we look at the Norris Trophy odds, Cale Makar, of course, coming in at number one. You also got Adam Fox, Dahlin, McAvoy, Heiskanen, Hughes, Juuse, Hamilton, Carlson, and Hedman right there inside the top 10. But Cale Makar, the resounding favorite, as he probably should be. But now let's go on to the Hart Trophy voting, and this one to me is all over the place. There's a few guys that could be really sneaky picks here. Of course, we saw Connor McDavid run away with the voting last season, but I think it's kind of the Cale Makar off year, even year type of thing, where with McDavid, because he won last season, I think he's a little bit less likely to win it this season, though there obviously is still the case that he could. But when you look at it, he won the Hart Trophy back in 2017. He won the Hart Trophy back in 2021, and of course this year in 2023. But I think in 2022, we saw, since he won the year before, it being a little bit less likely that he won that next season. I think we could see the same thing happen again. Now, in saying that, let's go on to the top three, and you know what? Let's just go on to the player that I think will who will end up at that third spot in the Hart Trophy, and that will be Connor McDavid. I mean, he's Connor McDavid. We've talked about him a lot. I don't know for him, especially because of what he won last year, that he'll be super likely to win again. But I still think he'll be in the top three because of the points he puts up, because of how valuable he is for Edmonton. If we're just talking about pure value and the best, McDavid would win every year. But because voters like to kind of spice it up a little bit, I think McDavid will finish third. Now let's move on to the player that I think will get the second most votes in the Hart Trophy voting. And next up, I have Juuse Saros of the Nashville Predators. To me, I think Saros going to get a lot of buzz this next year, of course, winning the Vezina Trophy, but I also think a lot of Hart consideration is going to come from that, especially considering I don't think a lot of people are predicting Nashville to be a playoff team, but to me, I think they're close, and Saros is going to put them over the edge with his amazing performance this next year, and I think he's going to get a lot of consideration for that. It's extremely hard for a goalie to win the Hart Trophy, which is a reason why I don't have him number one, but I also feel like some people might hold him back because his save percentage might not be as elite as maybe a Shesterkin next year, but in terms of pure value, he's still going to get a lot of hype and will be in the top three. But now let's move on to number one, and the player that I think will win the Hart Trophy in 2024. This is a player that I think maybe should have got more Hart consideration last year, honestly, but I think this next year we're going to see him get past 100 points again and really provide unreal value for his team, and that is Kirill Kaprizov of the Minnesota Wild. Now, to me, I think Kaprizov is in a perfect position to win the Hart Trophy. The team around him isn't looking too hot, and I would say most likely Boldy is going to be the second highest scorer on the team, but even then, I'm seeing probably being around 60, 65 points. I see Kirill Kaprizov, though, getting back to that elite level, hopefully having a fully healthy season. You can see last year, after a 108-point season, went back down to 75. But to me, I think we could see him around the 105-point range. But considering how desperate the rest of this Minnesota team is for offense, I think that'll be even more impressive. They'll make the playoffs, and a big reason because of that will be Kaprizov. I think we could see maybe a 30, maybe even 40-point difference between number one and number two. And considering Kaprizov's output and, of course, the reputation he has over the past couple of years, I think that's going to really propel him into that number one spot. Not the same exact situation, but of course, think back to Taylor Hall in 2018. A similar sort of situation happening. And then we look at the MVP odds here. McDavid leading the way with a plus 110. You then got Matthews, McKinnon, Pastrnak, Draisaitl, Tkachuk, Makar, Hughes, Kaprizov. To me, Kaprizov is a beautiful bet there, but right now McDavid leads the way as the betting favorite. But now let's move on to my favorite trophy to predict, and that is the Calder Trophy. With how many players are in play, it's going to be a fascinating race, but unfortunately, with the prospect scrimmages and the results there, we have a good idea of who should be in the race. Let's start out out here though with my third highest Calder Trophy favorite here, and this is a player that's going to get a good opportunity in a solid spot and hopefully a lot of offense around him, and that is Adam Fantilli of the Columbus Blue Jackets. We saw him dominate the prospect tournament as he should have, but you know, he was exactly what we expected. And with Columbus, of course, he's signed, he's ready to go, and will be at that second line center position immediately. And I think even though there was some drama to start things out, I think they'll be okay with how he was able to perform at University of Michigan. I think we'll see a pretty smooth sailing transition into the NHL. But of course, the weapons around him in Columbus aren't too bad. Maybe we'll see him alongside Michigan player Kent Johnson, maybe around Kirill Marchenko. He could already be the driver of his line at 18 years old. We'll have to wait and see. Columbus has a lot of unique weapons, though, that I think Fantilli is really going to appreciate and really battle with throughout the entire year. In saying that, though, I don't think he's going to light the world on fire, but I could see around maybe a 45, 50-point season out of him, maybe 25, 30 goals. I think we could see that out of a full NHL season from him. We'll have to wait and see. I think there are some good options there, but it just the opportunity is so important, and Fantilli will have it. Next up, going on to my second Calder Trophy favorite here, and a lot of people in this spot would have Luke Hughes. I have a different Luke in that spot, and it will be Luke Evangelista. Now, to me, he has risen so much in the prospect stock over the last couple of years. It's actually pretty crazy. He was drafted 42nd overall back in 2020, but the development and the consistency in his progress has been monstrous. I mean, you can see since 2020, he was a monster in the OHL. Then he came into the AHL with the Preds in their system and dominated there too. And then in the NHL last year, in 24 games, got 7 goals, 8 assists, and 15 points. To me, Evangelista is going to fit in naturally into that Pred system. Will likely get top 6 minutes immediately, and that will be huge for him too. I think he's going to be one of the most consistent rookies, and considering the brunette system, considering the opportunity he has, and some pretty good centers there still in Ryan O'Reilly. You could work off of Cody Glass, perhaps. I think he's going to have a pretty good opportunity here to really run away with things, just like he did in the second half last year, and be a consistent rookie. Just like Fantilli, probably around 50, 55, maybe even 60 points there. But of course, at number 1, I used to kind of have a hot take that I didn't think Bedard would win the Calder Trophy immediately, but just what he's been able to do and how consistent he's been able to be, it's hard not to pick him at number 1. We got to go with Connor Bedard. Now, I'm not really sure why Elite Prospects just decided on this day of all days to put a picture of him like 8 years old or something, but Bedard is going to be unreal for the Chicago team. Already in the prospects room in one game, he impressed in every single way, looked like he was ready to go and just naturally fit into being a hat trick 4-point night. He is going to lead Chicago in so many ways, and I think he could have some decent weapons with Hall around him. Maybe Lucas Reichel fits in. They were planning on playing him at center, but we'll see if that's able to stick. Still, though, he is going to be dominant next year in his way. I don't think he's going to score 100 points, get 50 goals immediately, but I could see maybe a 30, 35 goal season out of him, probably around 60, maybe 65 points. Chicago's offensive system and just the players around him will limit him a little bit, but it looks a lot better than it did a few months ago, and he should have enough firepower to win the Calder Trophy. And of course, no surprise here in the betting odds. You got Connor McDavid number 1, Luke Hughes number 2. You got Logan Cooley, Adam Fantilli, Devon Levi, Juracek, Nemeth, Clark, Nyes, Pellichet, Evangelista, all in the mix there. Connor Bedard, though, is likely to win it, and the odds reflect that pretty well. I also want to give a little bit of honorable mention to the Selke Trophy. I didn't really have enough time to really put together that for this video, but I'm going to just put my top 3 out there. I think Elias Pettersson will win the Selke Trophy next year. Right behind him will be Alexander Barkov and Nico Hischier, respectively. But those are my 2024 award trophy picks, odds, and rankings. I want to know in the comments down below, what do you guys agree? What do you guys disagree with? And I want to know for every single one of these trophies, because there's so many players to choose from. Who do you see winning the Hart, the Vezina, the Norris, the Selke, everything? I want to know all your thoughts down below. Of course, make sure you share the video with all the hockey fans you guys know online. Get the video out there. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you haven't already, and click on this card for all my rankings content right at one playlist. My name is Nathan, and I hope you have a fantastic, beautiful, amazing day. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.